Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
It was great to go through the process. There really weren't any issues, and once the season ended, Coach Martin and I had a chance to visit on a number of occasions, and it was all great. We're very excited that he's going to be here as our coach, and with an extension, with an opportunity to continue to recruit with now 6 years in front of him. So I feel like that his impact on this program has been significant.
Ray Tanner making sure that Frank Martin isn't going anywhere, locking up the Gamecock Hoops coach for 6 more seasons. Carolina coming off one of its best seasons in recent memory, despite the fact that they missed out on the NCAA tournament, despite the fact that they got the invitation from the NCAA, the old switcheroo at the last moment. They still had a phenomenal season, winning 25 games, and Frank Martin will be in place to continue that building process. Good evening. Happy Friday. Welcome into Sports Talk. Kevin McCrary flying solo tonight. No Corn, no Pro. Just me. Now, if I was one of those April Fool's pranksters, I could give you some spill about how Pro's been fired, Corn's been fired, the show's been rebranded. It's now Kevin McCrary Talk. And this is the first show. I'm not that guy. I don't like this day. We got Larkin Belton behind the glass, too. Got to give him his props. This day, do you believe anything that you see on this day? Everybody's trying to trick everybody. It's so cliched. Fortunately, I'm impervious to April Fool's pranks because I never believe anything that I see, especially on Twitter or the internet. So it doesn't really get me, but it doesn't keep people from trying. It never ceases to amaze me. Yeah, I could have opened up the show and said, oh, Deshaun Watson tore his ACL in a non-contact drill. I could have said, oh, Connor Mitch has been named the starting quarterback at USC. And for a second, a few of you poor schlubs might have believed it. And then I would have said, ha, 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 April Fools. And you would have felt ridiculous, and then you would have been angry at me. I'm not going to do that to you. Know that everything that I say tonight is the gospel, the sports gospel here on the main street of sports on our downtown Columbia studios. Glad to be with you. We do have a busy show, no fooling there, just a jam-packed show. It's probably a good thing that Corn and Pro aren't here just so we can squeeze all of this in and not miss out on anything. You heard Ray Tanner talk there in the open, and we'll hear more from him later in the show about Frank Martin's contract, and then on a few other items involving Gamecock athletics. USC and Vanderbilt playing game 2 of their series in Nashville tonight. We'll check in from the Music City with the BigSpur.com's John Whittle. Clemson in progress right now. They're taking on Pitt at Doug Kingsmore Stadium, dodging some hellacious weather. They started that game early. If you're wondering why, it's already in progress. They moved it up from a 6:30 start to a 5 o'clock start, trying to beat a lot of these storms that are moving through the southeast today. And they are in progress, and Clemson has just taken a 2-1 lead, as a matter of fact. Seth Beer, who else? Seth Beer driving in the go-ahead run on a double. 22-game hitting streak for Seth Beer. There is no question about it. If there was ever any doubt, it's been put to rest. Beer is good. Sports Talk is good, too. We got a lot to do here on a Friday night. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. We'll be back. More Sports Talk to come. Clemson now leads Pitt 4-1. Reed Rollman with the 2-out RBI single that put the Tigers up 4-1. Seth Beer also had an RBI double that inning, and the inning is now over. They're heading to the top of the fourth at Doug Kingsmore Stadium. Clemson leads Pitt 4-1. Let's head up to the Music City. John Whittle from thebigspur.com hanging out there, getting ready for game 2 between USC and Vanderbilt. The Doors won the first game last night. They scored 4 runs in the first inning and never really looked back from there, although the Gamecocks did try to make it interesting late, and they'll try to even up the series tonight against a very talented Vanderbilt team. And John Whittle joins us now. First of all, how's the weather up there? I know it was a little shaky last night. They did end up getting the game in, but what's the weather like tonight?
I think it's okay. It's okay right now. It's a little bit overcast. There's a cool breeze blowing out the right field, so that's going to help the hitters out a little bit. So probably needed after last night. There wasn't a whole heck of a lot of offense, at least for South Carolina. So, but yeah, weather's good. Weather's good.
Vanderbilt has one of the top programs in the country. They've won a national championship. They've been to Omaha multiple times. Do they get a lot of fan support there? I know the basketball team gets fan support. We know the football team doesn't get any. Does the baseball team get any love up there?
Yeah, they do for the most part. I mean, the facility doesn't hold a whole lot of people. I think it's a little over 4,000. But they've added some seats into the outfield in the last couple of years, and that's gotten a little bit rowdy out there, as rowdy as Vanderbilt can get, I think. But yeah, I know people probably watched on television last night and didn't see a whole lot of folks here. But when it's a Thursday night game and when the weather is predicted as bad as it was supposed to be up here, there were tornado watches around us. So I think that contributed to a fairly small crowd last night.
Yeah, there's probably a good honky-tonk band playing out there on Broadway. That always diminishes the crowd, too, when you're talking about Nashville. Lineup tonight looks pretty much the same. John, do you see any changes in Holbrook's lineup?
I haven't seen the lineup just yet. I don't think they've put it out yet. You may be a step ahead of me, but I think Chris Cohen will probably start behind the plate tonight. John Jones started last night behind the plate. I think they usually try to catch Cohen twice and Jones once. So I think Cohen will be back out there.
You are a smart guy. In fact, they have just released a lineup, and Cohen is catching, and Jones is in the designated hitter spot, batting into that 3-hole. Gene Cone, Tolbert, Jones, Destino. Then it's Dom Thompson, Williams, Bride, Colin, Arendis, Mooney, and Braden Webb. Looking for an encore off that phenomenal performance against Arkansas. We'll see if he can build on that tonight, John.
Yeah, certainly. Braden had a pretty good performance last week against Ole Miss. He started out a little bit shaky, with a couple of walks and a hit in that first inning, but really came back, the next few innings and pitched really well. Walks have been kind of his bugaboo this year, and he kind of got those under control a little bit against the Rebels. So, this will obviously be a big game for him to show that he's kind of moved past that.
The Gamecocks, they lost that extra inning game at home to Charleston. They lost last night, really had a bad first inning. Do you think they're still playing okay and it's just kind of baseball? You're going to lose a few games, or are you sensing some signs of a scuffle?
No, I think they're still playing okay. I don't sense any problems, really, to be honest with you. I mean, College Charleston was a really good team, battle-tested team. South Carolina played poorly that night. Last night, maybe people got a different impression watching the game on television. I think South Carolina played that poorly. You're going up against the first-round draft pick who's, throwing 97 miles an hour and throwing his changeup and his breaking ball for a strike. That's hard to hit. I thought there were some good at-bats. And obviously there were some at-bats that weren't very good either. But I thought overall South Carolina competed pretty well against one of the best teams in the country who played a really clean game itself. So, I think it was just, a good college baseball game last night that two teams played pretty well, and one ended up with a big inning and the other one didn't.
John, we appreciate it. No television tonight, so we'll be counting on you, following you on Twitter at John Whittle and at the Big Spur. City. We're going to go from baseball in the Music City to basketball in Houston. The Final Four tips off tomorrow night. Our good friend Lee Klein joins us on the line now. And Lee, you're in basketball heaven right now, getting ready for the Final Four.
No question. 4 teams, fan bases starting to roll into town. And, it's a big city here, but it is starting to get that Final Four vibe as 4 teams, 4 unique stories come in, and we'll see what happens. 2 games left in this college basketball season. 2 days of games, I should say. 3 games total.
Yeah, it's a little bittersweet in a way when it comes to an end. It's been such a great tournament, so many amazing storylines, and maybe none bigger than the fact that Syracuse, who on Selection Sunday, a lot of people, present company included, said, how in the heck did Syracuse get into this tournament? And now they're in the Final Four. Go figure.
Well, it just goes to show you that 3 weeks in March could kind of right a wrong of a whole season or the other way around. For Syracuse, you play who's in front of you. And they were fortunate, they had a fleeting Dayton team, and then they took out upstart Middle Tennessee, who shocked the world. And then they played as good a half against Virginia as I've seen any team play this year. And, credit to Jim Boeheim on a couple things. First, he was able to really individually settle his guys to make it feel like they were never completely out of it. And then the second part is he got the energy going. He's got a good relation with Trevor Cooney, got him moving, ended up getting a 3 out of his, out of the movement, a stop, another 2, a press, a turnover, and just got the whole thing going. And now they got to try to dial it up one more time against a North Carolina team that's 10 points better.
Yeah, 10 points better and looking so strong. They beat another ACC team to get to the Final Four and a very good Notre Dame team. But these teams are very familiar with each other. I don't know if you're North Carolina, do you want to play a team that's so familiar with you? Would you rather play somebody that you haven't faced?
I think you play who is ever there. Mm-hmm. For North Carolina, you're saying, look, let's play our best game, right? So that means the guards, which they've gotten tremendous production this tournament from their guard play, which had been a question for a lot of the season. Marcus Page has played better. Joel Berry's been really good these last 6 weeks. And then this last game, Theo Pinson provided a real spark, getting a steal, a layup, a rebound, tip-in. So they're getting such contributions out of the guard position when they have the best front court left standing, 6'11" on up, Jackson, Meek, Hicks, Bryce Johnson. And to me, that's where they win this game against Syracuse, is on the backboard.
Of course, Bryce Johnson, a South Carolina native from over there in Edisto High School. All right, over on the other side, how about Oklahoma? Buddy Hield, he's been a ton of fun to watch. You can fill it up from all over the court. One of the great scorers we've seen in the NCAA tournament in recent memory. Certainly, Villanova has been playing well. Also, how do you see that one breaking down?
Boy, the Buddy Hield, it's a great story for multiple levels. The one level is it gives every kid that's playing in the sandlot somewhere with the backboard, that makeshift backboard, gives him hope. Okay, because that's what Buddy Hield represents. Every kid playing in Panama, Peru, Poland, you name it, he gives that kid hope for what he's been able to do, and such a great ambassador to the game, somebody who recognizes the game's bigger than him. To me, Oklahoma, who I picked to win this thing, I think that was the way Villanova is playing, their perimeter defense has really been incredible. You got a chance to taste that against Kansas, and then you've got, the inside game of Ochefu, and you see Bridges and Reynolds and these guys coming along. I think that Villanova is the team to beat. They got a little something going that you can't teach between the chemistry aspect. I think that despite my pick of Oklahoma, I think Villanova comes out the victor tomorrow.
We will find out. Have a great time in Houston. I know you will. Great job as always, Lee. We'll catch up with you next week and break it all down.
My pleasure.
Lee Klein joining us from Houston. The Final Four tips off tomorrow with the semifinals and then the championship game Monday night. Continuing a busy night here on Sports Talk. We've already brought you an update from Nashville where USC baseball getting set to take on Vanderbilt in about an hour. We took you to Houston for a preview of the Final Four coming up this weekend. And we're going to keep it in Houston and head across town over to the Houston Open, where we have on the line now our good friend John Brooks joining us from the Houston Open. Hello, John.
Phil, you're all over the place today, my man.
We got K-Mac. Phil is all over the place, but one of the places isn't on the show tonight, unfortunately. We pulled a little April Fool's joke on
Sorry, I'll be okay.
You got K-Mac. Yeah, it's no problem at all.
Wake me up. Well, I'm glad you guys are all over the place.
We
I'm
are.
glad. Let me tell you, here at the Shell Houston Open, guys have been all over the place. It's a windy day, much more than yesterday. There was a weather delay of an hour and a half this morning. Charlie Hoffman got in despite the weather delay at 2 under par for the day. He's the clubhouse leader at 10 under. And in this short soundbite, it tells more than just the length.
Tee to green, I did pretty well. The putts just didn't fall like they did yesterday, but not many days will be like they were yesterday. So I'm happy where I'm at 10 under par, obviously.
Well, yesterday he birdied half of the holes that he played. Today he, as I said, was 2 under par for -10. And right now it's standing up, and it may stand up. Jamie Lovemark is at -9. The guy that could get him is Roberto Castro, who is a native of Houston. He's 2 under through 8 holes at -9. He's the guy that's got the best chance, but you say that, he's one of 2 that's really got a good chance, because Dustin Johnson got off a little bit slow today, and his round was delayed before it started an hour and a half. He didn't start till 2:20 Central Time. He's just hit the halfway mark of the second round. He's 1 under par, but he's 8 for the tournament, so he's only 2 out of it. Lucas Glover and Russell Henley both had good days today. 4 under par has been the best. 5 guys have had that. Those were 2 of the 5 that were there. So the leaderboard is Hoffman at 10, Lovemark at -9, along with Roberto Castro. Dustin Johnson very much in it with a chance to grab the lead before the afternoon's over at -8. Martin Laird is at -8, and then there's a bunch at -7. But yesterday there were 20 guys 3 strokes apart, and today there are 9. And I think the wind and the course itself a part of that. We won't see as many low scores as we did yesterday. In fact, this round's going to end up, the guys that are late on it will have to finish their rounds early tomorrow, because there's going to be a little bit of carryover from the weather delay.
All right, guys, trying to get their final tune-up this weekend before they get ready for the Masters, and it sounds like it's going to be a great tournament there.
It will be, and appreciate you guys letting us on to tell us about it.
We always enjoy it. Thanks so much, John.
Thank you. Okay, bye.
All right, John Brooks joining us there from the Shell Houston Open. Charlie Hoffman again on top of the leaderboard at 10 under par. Dustin Johnson hanging around 7 under. Will this be the year? Will this be the season that Johnson finally breaks through and wins that major? We know he's knocked on the door a few times. He's had some heartbreak would be an understatement for the way he's let some get away from him. Nobody questions the talent. He just hasn't been able to put it all together. It does kind of remind you of Phil Mickelson when he was trying to break through and win that major. All the talent, and he made some mistakes. He broke through, and then he won multiple majors. I think Dustin Johnson will win not one, but multiple majors when it's all said and done. USC Board of Trustees unanimously approved a 4-year contract extension for Frank Martin that will run through March 31st of 2022. Martin's full compensation this season was about $2.1 million. He'll have an increase to $2.45 million in the first year of this new contract, and that will grow to $2.7 million by 2022. Martin's buyout for the contract now stands at $4.8 million. It'll drop each year to a minimum of $500,000 the final 2 years. So Ray Tanner has locked up Frank Martin coming off a 25-win season for the Gamecocks. They finished third in the SEC. They were preseason number 7 in the conference in the preseason media poll. The Gamecocks were one of the first 4 teams out of the NCAA tournament, but certainly they are trending in the right direction. They've won more games every year under Frank Martin. They have a good, solid core nucleus. They do have some questions with the 5 suspended players, certainly, but no question that Frank Martin has a program going in the right direction. Ray Tanner talked about locking him up for 6 more years.
We've been working on this for quite a while, and certainly, you know, when you have a coach that's going through a season, I think we were 15-0 at one point, and his agent and I had a great relationship throughout this process, and it's probably in excess of 3 months altogether. So it was great to go through the process. There really weren't any issues, and once the season ended, Coach Martin and I had a chance to visit on a number of occasions, and it was all great. We're very excited that he's going to be here as our coach, and with an extension, with an opportunity to continue to recruit with now 6 years in front of him. So I feel like that his impact on this program has been significant. You know, while we're sitting here today, we didn't make March Madness. We were in a position to be in March Madness. So that is tremendous progress in this program, academic progress as well. The community and engagement, Coach Martin's embracing this community like he has. There are so many positives. I feel like our program is in a position of strength right now, and we're delighted that he'll be our coach.
What about, you mentioned all the aspects he brings. I mean, his national track record when he came here was pretty stellar. To keep this guy locked in,
I think it's significant for us. And in my conversations with our board members, you know, I talked about a lot of components in the culture of this program, but he is respected on the national level with his ability to coach. The X and the O's and the technical aspect of the game is very, very special. And players recognize that. They enjoy playing for him. I've had a chance to visit with a couple of players this week. And so it's an important position for us to be in. And as I've said many times in the last few days, we were in a position this year to be an NCAA team. We didn't make it, but we're in a position. That's very important.
As a former coach who built his own program, in the 4 years, every year they've taken a step forward. So what do you see in the way he has built his program that impresses you from that standpoint?
Well, quite honestly, you know, he's just finished his 4th year. That's not a lot of time. And when he got here, and not to be critical of any coaches in the past, but it wasn't a great situation to inherit, and he had to build in a quick manner, and he had some challenges along the way, the culture, and there were so many positives. We've increased our season ticket sales. We've increased in so many ways, and the popularity of Coach Martin in this community and the way that our fan base is embraced men's basketball is very special. So it's important that we're here today, and he's our coach. And we go into every year now with the expectations that we could be an NCAA team. That has not always been the case.
Ray, any indications that he was tempted at all to look around at anything else that might be out there?
I never got any indication of that whatsoever. And of course, it's my job to try to anticipate some of that. And I never had that in any conversation with Coach Martin. So I feel good about where we are today. I mean, part of, you know, having a coach in any sport here at your university, there has to be engagement and buy-in on their part. And you know, we had that from Coach Martin and his family 100%.
How impressed were you that he wanted to wait until the end of the season to even think about this?
Well, it was easy for me because I've been there, and you don't want any type of distractions whatsoever. And, you know, until the final hour, you know, we were in a position that we were progressing toward NCAA March Madness, and it ended up not happening. So I wasn't about to engage in a conversation. I told him that I would not personally have a conversation with him about his contract from the very beginning, except that I would have conversations with his representative. And I did that, but not one time did I engage in a sit-down conversation with him until the year was over.
Why now, though? Why wait till it got down to just 2 years left on the contract? Why not, like last year, address this thing? Or did you guys look at it last year and decide to wait?
Well, I think there was some certainly on my part, there was thought about that, and if it should be an opportunity now to move forward. I probably didn't feel the pressure to do that as far as the timing and the 2 years and those kind of things. I was concerned even back last year if it was going to be a factor or not. And, you know, from my standpoint, I wanted to continue to see the trend. We had made some positive moves in a lot of different areas, and we continued to do that. And this year was even more special. So it was certainly an opportunity last year to consider it, but we got it done now.
How do you feel about the financial package that you are giving him compared to the rest of the SEC?
Well, I think it's outstanding. I spent a lot of time, and I had some assistants over in my department comparing the numbers nationally and in the Southeastern Conference, and it was the analytics that we got back were in depth. There, like I said, considerable amount of time spent, and this is going to put him in the top 4 or 5 in the SEC, probably in the top 20 range nationally, and I feel that's where he should be. We're the University of South Carolina in the Southeastern Conference, and we have expectations, and we certainly should compensate our coaches accordingly.
Was there a lot of negotiation in the process? Or did he accept your first offer? Did you go back and forth, kind of working the numbers?
There wasn't much back and forth. I didn't, I didn't go in there, as a low number and try to negotiate. I didn't do that. I shared what I'd learned in this business about fair compensation and doing comparables, and so we were very close from the very beginning. We made some tweaks along the way in the last few weeks, but not significant.
Where do you stand with the suspended players from your office?
I think that, there's been some conversations, and Coach Martin's going to address the media, I believe, on Monday, so I'll leave that to him.
The situation yesterday with the NCAA, can you just speak to that situation on your behalf and what that selection Sunday must have been like here?
Well, it's, I'll try to give you the specifics. If you remember, we had the 5:30 celebration that began at the Alumni Center. The text came in about 6:30. I was not on the text. It was one of our administrators and Andy Astley from Coach Martin's office because of the logistics involved in moving a basketball team. There was a number on the text. Andy called it immediately. Now, at the same time, this was an hour into the show. At the same time, there was a leaked bracket that had circulated. We weren't on that bracket. So we knew that we may not be a team. So he immediately called and said, is this accurate? And they said, we think so, we're not sure. They called back, I believe it was in 6 minutes, and said, we're very sorry. I didn't get upset or outraged. It was a mistake. And, there were a lot of articles yesterday and a lot of things circulating. A mistake was made, and it was corrected in a short period of time. And we moved on from there. There was a lot made of it yesterday, and the NCAA addressed it. And Dr. Pastides is in Houston right now, and I'm sure he'll have some conversations as well.
How did you feel about Gavitt's statement yesterday, especially the last paragraph where he said it, at no time was South Carolina ever voted into the tournament by the committee?
Well, I think, if that was an accurate statement, that's great. Do I believe that was the case? He said it. I do believe it. The March Madness is an incredible initiative. It's been very successful, and I think that he was honest in saying that. I have no reason to believe otherwise.
Oh, what a bizarre story that was. And I agree. I mean, a lot was made out of it just because it was so bizarre. But you can see how it would happen. Just a bad experience for the NCAA across the board, from the train wreck of a selection show. And I know that's not all on them. CBS has something to do with that. The leaked bracket, that was a train wreck. Calling a team and telling them that they were in when they weren't. Those are goofs that shouldn't happen. They do happen, but that's a big oops, and it leaked out. Kudos to Ray Tanner and Frank Martin. They did not leak that out, or at least initially they didn't. They understood it and have taken the high road, which is the proper road. I don't think it's a huge conspiracy, and it wasn't done to throw salt on the wound. It was a mistake, but it does put a lot of salt on the wound for a team that was so close to getting in. Some people thought they should have been in, certainly over Vanderbilt. I think you can still make that case that South Carolina deserved to be in over Vanderbilt, but given what ended up happening, the Gamecocks lost 5 players. They would have been down 5 players in the opening round of the NCAA tournament, or that first 4 game. So, it might have ended up the same for them as it did Vanderbilt. But just a bizarre story. That's one you might never see or hear of again. You're listening to Sports Talk on South Carolina Radio Network. Kevin McCrary at your service tonight. We have a lot to do. We've already done a lot in 45 minutes. Boy, we're just getting started, too. We're just hitting our stride. You just heard from Gamecock AD Ray Tanner breaking down the new contract for Frank Martin and talking all things Gamecock basketball related. But he had a few other things to talk about that we want to share with you here. And we're going to do that now. Listen in as Ray Tanner breaks down a few other items of interest in the Gamecock athletic department.
The baseball season to this point, I know lost last night, but opening SEC play, 6 wins in 7 games. I don't think you ever did that. So
Let's hope in the program.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Your view of the baseball season to this point.
Well, I'm excited. I mean, we got off to a great start, had a tough loss last night, but that was our first loss in the SEC. And when you talk about opening up at home and then you've got 6 on the road against 2 top 10 teams, the challenges are great. If you were to come back with a winning record in this league in baseball, you're in good shape. He's going to be in that position. He's already got 6 wins. So if we can get a game at Vandy, maybe 2, you're in a wonderful position. You're a top 10 team. So it couldn't, in my, from my vantage point, what Coach Holbrook and his team has done to this point is very special. We're at the halfway point. I mean, we're almost there, I guess, with another game or 2. So looking forward to how they're finished and hope we get a chance to play at home at the end of the year.
The new pro team opens up this month in Columbia. Have you been over to see their facility? And again, do you welcome them with open arms, or is that going to be competition now moving forward?
No, I'm not. There's not going to be any competition. I mean, John Katz, the president CEO, is a neighbor of mine, and I'm a Firefly fan, and I'll probably be there on opening night. So I'm excited about what they bring. It's a different fan base. You talk about the Gamecocks, and then season ticket holders for the Fireflies. It's going to be entirely different, but I'm a baseball fan, so I'm excited that they're in town. Looking forward to a great spring.
Are you throwing out the first pitch?
No, I probably won't be invited throughout the first pitch, but it's a wonderful facility. I have stopped by there and taken a look at it, so I'm anxious to get their season underway.
Do you see anything in their facility that you kind of wish you had worked into Founders Park?
Well, I'm a little bit biased about Founders Park as being one of the nicest in the country, and they have a few more suites than we do, but we did build Founders Park in a way that we could add suites without doing a whole lot of restructuring. That was part of the initial plan. So that might be something we consider, down the road if the demand is there. So, but it's a beautiful stadium as well as Founders Park.
And the spring game is a week from Saturday, and Coach Muschamp he's put out the alert to the fans to show up in big numbers. What's your expectations?
Well, I hope it's a new record for our spring game. I know that a lot of people are excited about what Coach Muschamp has brought to our program and the energy level that is apparent already. So I'm hoping there's a new record for the spring game. I had a chance to visit with him a little bit. I know this morning I visited with him, and he's excited about where we are, and they've worked extremely hard, and we'll have fun for the spring game.
Ray Tanner, and the spring game is right around the corner, April 9th, a week from tomorrow. The Garnet and Black spring game, high noon at Williams-Brice Stadium. Beforehand, they're doing an alumni game. So they better have the paramedics on hand early for the alumni game. I know they've been out practicing. I think the Pastor Payne is among the group that is going to be out there participating in that, and it'll be the first chance for Gamecock fans to get their eyeballs, at least the ones that didn't go out to practice earlier this week, but really a dress rehearsal, the first look at the team post-spring and going into next season as Will Muschamp is trying to put his stamp on things and see where they stand. Clemson will also hold this spring game a week from Saturday. The Tigers will have their game a little bit later in the afternoon. I think they have a 4 o'clock start over at Death Valley. So we'll get our final football fix before we have to hit these long dog days of summer where you're just counting down the days to kickoff, and all of the watch lists come out in June and July, the McNarick Award watch list, the Mackey Award watch list, the Ray Guy Award watch list, the Davey O'Brien Award watch list, and we'll just pass all that information along. Then the Lindy's and Athlon magazines come out, and you'll thumb through those. At least I still thumb through those. Maybe I'm old school. I know everything's online now and on your phone, but I still do kind of like the Lindy's and Athlon's guides. Take them on vacation, or you're sitting on the beach or around the pool or the lake. They're fun to look at, but we will get our final real football fix where they're actually out in pads, and you always hope that nobody gets hurt and you get to see a little something. I always say this, maybe I should go ahead and do this disclaimer a little bit early. Don't read too much into what you see, good or bad, during a spring game. There'll probably be a guy that has a monster game that you'll go, wow, so-and-so looked really good. Man, I expect big things. You'll never hear from him again. There's always that guy that has the big spring game, and you think, boy, he's going to be really good, and you never hear from him again. Don't read too much into it, good or bad. But you can learn a few things about your team, certainly, in spring games. And I know that, especially in Columbia, with Will Muschamp going through his first spring game, it will be very intriguing to see how he runs that and how the Gamecocks look out there after a few weeks of practices, 15 practices under Coach Boom. Recruiting, that's right, recruiting, no fooling. It's coming up. Insects and diseases can be moved hundreds of miles in firewood and threaten our forests, favorite campsites, neighborhoods, and state, as well as national parks. Help protect the trees you love by purchasing firewood at or near where you burn it. For more information, visit don'tmovefirewood.org. All right, let's jump into some recruiting. Corn's not here tonight. It's April Fool's Day, but this is great recruiting. No fooling. There's not going to be any joke at the end of this recruiting report. And we begin tonight's report with defensive back Marquise Bell out of Bridgeton, New Jersey. He's had an offer from Clemson since February, but it's only recently that he learned that he had an offer from Brent Venables. And for that, he's glad to know. He thought he would come when he visited, and he said he can't really explain it, but Clemson is one of the top schools in the country, and they are looking at me. It made me feel special that a school like that is interested in me. Bell can play corner or safety. He's a receiver and quarterback in high school. The Tigers like him as a safety, and he's been impressed with Clemson and what they've done in the secondary in recent year and the defensive backs that they produce. Bell plans to take some official visits before deciding. He'll wait until signing day for that. Last season, he had 60 tackles with 2 interceptions. He also caught 52 passes for 792 yards and 11 touchdowns. Thursday's practice at USC attracted Gamecock targets, wide receiver Austin Connor of Dutch Fork and defensive end Tyreek Johnson of Lakewood. For another look at things, Connor is still a ways off from making a decision, but Johnson is set to commit to the Gamecocks tomorrow when he and his parents return for a 9 o'clock visit with Will Muschamp. Johnson said he had a great visit Thursday. He got a chance to talk to the coaches and meet some of the players and was impressed with the pace of practice and how physical the practice was. Johnson also got a chance to catch up with Will Muschamp. Connor has USC in his top 5 along with Virginia Tech, Duke, Tennessee, and Georgia. He said it's not in any particular order. He said USC was another good experience with his visit there. Said it was nice. He spent time with wide receivers coach Brian McClendon and watched the players closely on the practice field. And he likes the aggressive nature that McClendon takes with the Gamecock receivers and says they are recruiting him hard. Connor will visit Tennessee tomorrow and might go to Georgia April 9th. He does not have a time frame for making a decision. A few other notes to pass along here. 2018 defensive end Xavier Thomas of Wilson picked up an offer from Florida State Thursday night. 2018 wide receiver Tyleek Collins of Savannah will visit Clemson April 6th. That will be unofficial. Offensive lineman Eric Douglas of Charlotte, he's a USC target, got his academic work done, and he said he's received the qualifying ACT score. Union County wide receiver Shi Smith and Lake Marion Tank Robinson both visited Alabama today, are in the process of doing that. I have a few other recruiting notes. We'll pick these up on the other side of the top of the hour break. Don't go anywhere. More sports talk right around the corner.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Back for hour number 2 here on Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Kevin McCrary holding down the fort tonight. Phil Kornbluth with the night off. The Professor Tom Hayes with the night off. Glad you're with us wherever you have us dialed in around the wonderful Palmetto State. Maybe you're listening to us online at sportstalksc.com with the Listen Live link. Maybe you're watching us. Goodness, you have to be brave to be watching us on our video stream, but it is there and available and at your service. In fact, you can go back and rewatch us, or if you missed something or want to hear something again, break down the tape, find out what you missed, point out our shortcomings if you can find any. Good luck. Good luck finding any of those. But you can go back and look for any mistakes or miscues there at sportstalksc.com because we archive our shows for you. Now, as we hit the top of the hour break, I was passing along some recruiting notes. Corn's not here tonight, but he did leave a very extensive recruiting report, so extensive, in fact, that I was unable to finish it before the top of the hour break. So let me resume where I left off, and then we'll move on to other things here because we have a very busy second hour of the program coming your way. I left off with Union County wide receiver Shi Smith and Lake Marion's Tank Robinson visiting Alabama. So we will proceed from there. Wide receiver J.J. Robinson of Lakeland, Florida, a Clemson target, said Thursday he no longer has any favorites and is open and is still looking for a home. USC target defensive end Jabril Glaze of Tampa added offers from Tennessee and Alabama. USC target offensive lineman Victor Beach of Fort Myers, Florida, has added an offer from Bowling Green. He's visited Central Florida this week. 6'2", Kyron Bowman of Havelock, North Carolina, committed to Boston College. We're talking basketball here. USC had shown interest to him. From Jeff Borzello of ESPN, Presbyterian transfer Deshaun Murray visited Middle Tennessee. Will visit Middle Tennessee next weekend. South Carolina, Auburn, Charleston, VCU, and Richmond are also involved. And that is tonight's recruiting report. If you missed anything, head over to sportstalksc.com. There is a ton of recruiting there for you at sportstalksc.com. And the great thing about the website, people say you get what you pay for. Well, sometimes you really get a bargain, and it is free $99. That's right, absolutely free at sportstalksc.com. A lot of places you have to pay a premium. You have to pay a monthly subscription to get any kind of recruiting news or any kind of sports updates and audio. We have it all there for you for the absolutely unbeatable price of free. That's right. In America, you can still get some things for free, including great content at sportstalksc.com. You should also follow along on Twitter at sportstalksc, where we tweet links to stories and information. That's usually the first place you find it. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, I am now tweeting a couple weeks deep into my Twitter account. You can follow me a little bit different than the Sports Talk Twitter feed at KMac Must Die. That's a pretty easy one to remember, at KMac Must Die. We'll be back. More Sports Talk to come. Clemson is on top of Pittsburgh 7-5. They're playing in the bottom of the sixth inning there at Doug Kingsmore Stadium. They got that one started at 5 o'clock. Moved the game up to avoid some of the bad weather. USC and Vanderbilt will play game 2 of their series in Nashville. That one's slated to have first pitch in about, 15 minutes or so from the Music City. The Gamecocks trying to bounce back after a loss last night in the opener. So that was their first loss in SEC play. The Gamecocks now 6-1 in the conference. Let's check in on some other scores of note here around the involving in-state teams, at least in the Big South. Let's see what we have in progress in the Big South. Coastal Carolina all over Gardner-Webb. They just clobbered Gardner-Webb 16-4. And the Chanticleers will be in Columbia to face the Gamecocks next Tuesday. Presbyterian and UNC Asheville, they don't have a score yet. They're just getting started. And we have Winthrop on top of Liberty 3-0 in the third. In the Colonial, let's see how the Cougars are doing. They're playing Elon at Elon. They're knotted up 4-4 in the fourth. And let me scroll down here on my scoreboard to the Southern Conference and see where things stand. In the SoCon, Furman and East Tennessee State in the fourth inning, 4-2 Furman on top of East Tennessee State. The Citadel leads Stetson 1-0, and Wofford and Western Carolina and Spartanburg, they are scoreless, top of the third inning. If you want to join us, we've actually been pretty busy tonight. 800-956-7266. We've just jumped right into things feet first, but you can join us on the show tonight. 800-956-7266. That is a toll-free call for you. If you want to hit us up on Twitter at Sports Talk SC, or drop us an email, talkback@sportstalksc.com. Hey, whether you're a part of Gamecock Nation or bleed Clemson orange, everyone can agree Founders Federal Credit Union is the best. With the convenient location at the Russell House on USC's campus and a new location on Highway 93 in Clemson coming soon, Founders is a sure fan favorite. Visit relaxjoinfounders.com to see if you qualify for membership. Founders Federal Credit Union is federally insured by NCUA. They are located in the heart of Gamecock country at the Founders Russell House location, and they're available to help you with all of your financial needs. Visit relaxfounders.com to see if you qualify for membership. All right. Mentioned this is April Fool's Day, and I'm not a big fan. I mentioned this last hour. I'm just not a big fan of the hijinks that happen on April Fool's Day. I don't know how some of these things are funny. Here's one for you. In the NBA, this is Dateline Golden State Warriors. Andre Iguodala decided to pull a little prank on his teammate Festus Ezeli. What did he do? Put shaving cream in his locker, April Fools? No, didn't do that. No, he went a lot deeper than that. He told the guy he'd been cut, played this joke on him. Ha, 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 you've been cut from the team. I'm not sure Ezeli actually bought it. It was recorded, and this was even sponsored. This is how bad it was. This was a prank that was sponsored, a sponsored April Fool's prank, only in America. But they told him that he had been cut, and he he bought it, or maybe he didn't buy it, but they let him in on it eventually. So that's a good one. Telling somebody that he's lost his job. That's laughter all the way around. Who doesn't like being told that they lost their job? You see these things all the time. There was one that Trader Joe's was closing down and people started freaking out. I just don't know why people do these things. I had a Twitter poll to see if anybody else shared my my disdain for these pranks on April Fool's Day, but I wanted to compare it to something else that's annoying. So the poll question was, what is more annoying, or who is more annoying? The guy who does April Fool's pranks or a Yankees fan? And as anybody that's listened to this program for an extended period of time knows, Kornblut is a big Yankee fan. And we all know that that can be painful. And as painful as it is on the air, let me tell you, it's even worse off the air and in between segments. If there's a Yankee game on television, it's like nails on a chalkboard. Every pitch. It could be the first inning of a spring training game, and he's acting like it's the bottom of the ninth inning, Game 7 of the World Series. And he's got little cheers and all these other things. It's pretty bad. Now, maybe he's a little over the top even by Yankee standards, but apparently a lot of people are very annoyed by Yankees fans. Maybe it's people that listen to this show and they base all Yankee fans on Kornblue. But the question was, who is more annoying, the guy who does April Fool's pranks or Yankees fans? An April Fool's prank guy is getting 22% of the votes, and Yankees fan is getting 78% of the votes. So most people would prefer to be pranked on April Fool's Day than to be around a Yankees fan. Go figure. That's a little interesting. Wasn't sure I would get that response, but maybe people like the April Fool's hijinks. If you're just tuning in, a quick recap of the news du jour. We heard from Ray Tanner earlier. Frank Martin is not going anywhere. I think this is a great move for South Carolina to lock up Frank Martin. I think he's done a phenomenal job in his 4 seasons with the Gamecocks, and I don't think there's any reason to believe that he won't continue to build that program up and get them into the NCAA tournament and win an NCAA tournament game. They were right on the door this year, and they have a good core coming back next year. They do have questions. They're losing some very good players. They're losing their best player in Michael Carrera, so they will have to replace him. They'll have to find some production in the post. They have 5 guys that are currently suspended. Tanner said that we should maybe get an update on that. We'll see. Frank Martin is having his postseason recap, kind of the nail, if you will, on the season, the icing on the cake of the 2015-2016 basketball season will come up Monday, and we'll see if there's any update on the 5 suspended players. Nothing has come down as of yet, but that will be critical because not all of those guys are probably going to be key players, but I do think that certainly Cobb had a chance to be a pretty good player. Gregory had played a pretty significant role in a few of the games, and the guy, his name is on the Chris Silva was the other one. He's probably the biggest one in that group because I think Chris Silva, who came in very raw, hadn't played a lot of organized basketball, but he has all SEC type of talent. He can be a really good big man inside and just an athletic guy that can alter shots, score some points. He's solid on the free throw line. I think he has a chance to just be a very good player. But they have Sindarius Thornwell coming back. PJ Dozier, I expect to make huge strides in year 2. That they've built a pretty good base of players. They'll get Dwayne Notice back, who played very well as a junior. So they'll have some upperclassmen to lead their team. They'll have some experience in the backcourt, and it's a guards game. It's a backcourt game as you hit the stretch of tight ball games. They have a pretty good recruiting class coming in. I like what Frank Martin's doing. So this was the right move for Ray Tanner. The basketball program is in the best shape it's been in a long, long time. No question about it. And had Martin not gotten this contract, had they decided to let him go or not made a serious run at him, then somebody would have scooped him up, and the Gamecocks would have been right back to square one trying to pick up the pieces, and they've been doing that too much. They need some stability in that program, and maybe Frank Martin will do that. This new contract, by the way, a 4-year extension, so that gets him locked down through 2022, 6 years total. He's going to get an increase from $2.1 million last season to $2.45 million in the first year of the new deal, and that's going to go up each year to about $2.7 by 2022, a $4.8 million buyout now. It'll drop each year, and it'll be about $500,000 the final 2 years of the contract. So Frank Martin in the fold for the Gamecocks here for the next 6 seasons, and we'll see if he can continue to build. And I suspect he will. The Gamecocks will have a chance. I think people will expect them to make another run during the regular season and put themselves in position to make the NCAA tournament. Now, before you can make any proclamations and declarations and predictions, you have to really see what's going to happen. I think Monday maybe we'll get some more answers because I think you certainly hope that Chris Silva makes it back and Gregory. I mean, you'd like to have all those guys back. You don't want to lose 5 players that you were counting on, but we'll find out come Monday. Quick timeout, more to come here on Sports Talk. All right, we are rolling right along here on a Friday night here on Sports Talk, and I can tell you that Clemson is putting away Pitt. They are now up 10-5 as they're playing in the sixth inning. At last check, they might have already even moved into the seventh, but the Tigers doubling up. Old Pitt actually now 11-5 with one out of the bottom of the sixth. Tigers still batting. So Clemson in very good shape to win that game and get back on track in the ACC. They were playing very well in conference until they went down to Miami last week, dropped a couple of tough games, lost in the bottom of the ninth on a walk-off two-run homer by Abreu in the first game of that series, lost in extra innings on Saturday night, and then they were beat pretty soundly on Sunday. But two games that could have gone either way on Friday and Saturday for the Tigers, so they ended up losing all three. But they've rebounded nicely this week, winning both of their midweek games, and now in very good shape against Pitt. And boy, you got to give Monty Lee a lot of credit. He came into a situation where things it had just gotten so toxic. Whether you want to say it's fair or not, and I don't think it was necessarily fair the way the situation had been for Jack Leggett and the way that all went down. But a change was made, and if you're going to make a change, you got to make the right call. And there's no question, and I don't say this because Clemson is winning tonight or because of the way they've started this season, but Monty Lee is a heck of a baseball coach. He had brought in a very good class. He kept some guys in place, and let's face it, Seth Beer's their best player. He's a guy that Jack Leggett brought in. I mean, Jack Leggett did not leave the cupboard bare. This whole idea that Jack Leggett ran the program into the ground is nonsense. We should dispel that fiction right away. Now, if you want to make the case that, okay, after that many years, after the 2 decades plus of Jack Leggett running the ship, that maybe it was time for the change, fine. You can make that case. But these people that were saying that he had ran the program into the ground, forget the fact that they were in the NCAA tournament last year. They did earn a way into that tournament. They had some talent. Jack Leggett has done a fine job with that program, and he didn't leave the cupboard bare for Monty Lee. And Monty Lee has taken that and ran with it. I think he's put a bolt of energy into the program. They certainly are playing hard for him, very loose, and Clemson is doing very well. And they're, we're still in the embryonic stages of conference play. But now that you're into your third, fourth league series, and for Clemson, this is their fourth. They played Wake Forest and Boston College and Miami. This is their fourth league series. So you're getting down into the nitty gritty now. We're into the month of April. We've flipped another month off the calendar. So they're on pace to get back into the NCAA tournament again this year. Now we'll see if USC can get back on track. They're about a minute or two away from first pitch in Nashville. They lost last night. A rough start for Clark Schmidt. He gave up 4 in the first inning, but after that, he settled down and pitched quite well for the Gamecocks. But they weren't able to bounce back from that. They ended up losing 6-3. We're going to talk a little NASCAR. The full Monty Dutton joining us on the line next. They're racing again this week. They're in Martinsville, qualified in the books. We'll check in with Monty Dutton coming up with the full Monty. They played 6 at Doug Keegsmore. Clemson up 12-5 on Pitt, and they've just started in Nashville, USC, and Vanderbilt. Top of the first inning. No score there. Let's welcome in on the Sports Talk hotline, Monty Dutton, with our full Monty segment, one of our favorite segments of the week, each and every week, breaking down all things NASCAR. And we finally have some NASCAR to talk about again. I say finally, it was only a 1-week hiatus, but it seemed like forever, Monty, because a week without a race, is it really a week at all?
It's a day without sunshine, which today has also been.
That's true. It has not been a very sunny day here in the Palmetto State, but apparently not too bad in Martinsville. They did get qualifying in today.
Martinsville is wonderful. I think that my favorite track is Darlington, but I think maybe I think Darlington is the track where you most benefit by being there. It's so much better in person than on television. And so I think that probably I miss going to Martinsville more. But I do love Darlington is my favorite racetrack. But I guess that Martinsville, I kind of like I created a new award category for it.
What did you like about Martinsville?
Well, first of all, for whatever reason, I don't think that the speed that, like at Daytona, it's really fast, but it's faster when you're there. At Martinsville, I think the sensation of speed on TV doesn't come across as well, although it does better by the way that they, show that. They always show that out of the turn shot where everybody's flashing by. But when you're there, it's sort of like amazing that cars can go that fast on this tiny little paper clip that's flat. And then also, I think that TV, has to choose what it shows you. In Martinsville, there's so many times that fascinating things happen back in the field. Like Martinsville and Bristol are this way where you can sort of smell a wreck coming because you can watch and you can see two guys getting frustrated with each other. And it's kind of like, just keep watching there and something's going to happen shortly. And so I always really enjoyed picking up the hints of things. Darlington, by the way, the great thing about Darlington is it's so narrow that sometimes the guy who's going to win the race is running 12th. And if you pay attention, you feel like you're the only one that knows that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Martinsville is a place where you can sort of see tempers rise. And so I always found that frustrating. But I really do think that, a lot of times in racing, you have to watch it closely, and the people who think it's boring are the ones who don't.
Yeah, that's true. And now these guys have all had a week off. They've been lounging around tropical islands, some of them fishing, doing whatever. So they're probably feeling rejuvenated. But like you said, on this short track, it probably won't take too long for tempers to start flaring out there.
Well, there aren't as many. The case of last year's most memorable event,
right?
Matt Kenseth wrecked Joey Logano, is the reason Martinsville is a likely place for that is probably because the speeds aren't high enough that there's less of a chance of someone getting hurt. I mean, Martinsville is the only track where the qualifying speed is under 100 miles an hour. I assume it still is.
Yeah, it was 97.043.
Yeah, 98 was what it was last year.
Yeah.
But I mean, Martinsville is a place where I think drivers are all too willing to mix it up because they know that, the repercussions of that aren't as severe.
How much do they slow down going around those corners? I mean, 97 is the best speed, but they have to clearly on those hairpin turns almost with the paperclip. How slow are they going around those turns?
Well, Martinsville, by the fact those turns are so narrow and also so they're not banked very much, they make it where, it's sort of like different from any other track in that you dig off the turn wide open, but you really have to let off not too far past the middle of the straightaway. And sort of one way you can brakes become an issue at Martinsville. You always see, in a way, it's kind of good when the day is cloudy because you can see those brakes glowing with a molten glow to them.
Mm-hmm.
And, when you're there, that's another thing that you can see. And so it's very hard on brakes, and then a lot of times the guys who can serve the brakes are the best at the end of the race. And sometimes that involves, doing as much as you can by being easy on the brakes, but just backing off the throttle. course, if you know, another reason about bumping and all that is that you know, when you're running so close, there's 40 cars around this tiny track. There's, you know, traffic is everywhere, so you can't. You know, there's a lot of risks. You have to remember that even the greatest drivers in the world make mistakes, and if they didn't make mistakes, there wouldn't be that many wrecks. And so, you know, you're right on somebody's. One of the biggest myths in racing is that everybody always thinks the guy behind, when he hits somebody, it's his fault. But a lot of times, in split second, when you're right on somebody's bumper, the other guy letting off more than you think is the reason for those things. So these are all things that one can study when he is watching the race there.
And why don't they put brake lights on the cars? Just like a little light, just to let somebody know when they're checking up.
I suppose that even there, in a place like Martinsville, you're so close. It probably, you know,
it wouldn't matter.
A brake light when you're on Rosewood Drive in Columbia. If you're going 35 and you're right behind and you're tailgating somebody and he slows up, you might hit him. Well, if you're going, I mean, for a track like Martinsville, going 130 down the straightaway, maybe there's very little. I'm not sure that that brake lights would be effective. I think in a way you sort of have to trust that the guy you're racing with knows what he's doing.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. Now, this is a track. Joey Logano's on the pole, by the way, and then Casey Kane, Brian Vickers, Paul Menard, and Ryan Newman. Your top five. Is this a track where you got to have a skill driver to win this thing? I know it always takes skill, but sometimes you have those inexperienced, a rookie. Can a rookie win this track?
I think it's fairly unlikely.
Yeah.
I think that Martinsville, a lot of times, is one of the last places people get proficient at. And that's really quite fascinating because I always want to laugh when you say, well, I think I do pretty well at Martinsville because I grew up on the short tracks. Well, who in the hell didn't grow up on the short track?
Right.
You'd think this would be the place that they would adapt to best, you know? But I think that certainly drivers who didn't have a background on the short tracks, people like Danica Patrick and Paul Menard and AJ Allmendinger, guys who came from other disciplines, you know. On the other hand, though, the people that come from the sprints and midgets of the Midwest on those little bull rings, they do adapt pretty well to Martinsville, which is why Jeff Gordon and Tony Stewart and people like that were good. So I think Martinsville kind of rewards racing for a guy who can drive anything with four wheels. But it really is fascinating to me that everybody says, you know, because of the fact that 80% of stock car racers came up on the short tracks. So now the only difference is that they all came up on the short tracks with money. And so, but I mean, I think that's something that's always fascinated me because there are some people who never adapt to Martinsville, and there's some people who get better with it at times, over time. And I think Logano dominated the last race there until Mr. Kenseth took care of that.
Right.
And I think he's probably the favorite because I think he's got that knack of saving his brakes. That's really the thing that throws people off.
Got to know how to save the brakes. Well, he does have the pull, and I got to think at a track like Martinsville, starting up front to stay away from as much of that traffic as you can, although you're going to get up into the lap traffic right away. I mean, is it pretty big to start up front here, or does it matter?
Yes, it is. In fact, it means nothing. You can qualify 40th and win at Talladega. But at Martinsville, not sure you can work your way up, and if you can fall behind earlier and get back, or you can also get track position by using pit strategy. But I think that at Martinsville, first of all, pit road is very tight, and there are a lot of little incidents that happen there. And secondly, I think you can probably afford a pit road speeding penalty at Martinsville. You're in for a real drag trying to work your way back up after you get thrown in the field.
Great stuff as always, Monty Dutton. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you next Friday with our full Monty here on Sports Talk. Whether you're a part of Gamecock Nation or bleed Clemson Orange, everyone can agree on Founders Federal Credit Union with a convenient location at the Russell House on USC's campus and a new location on Highway 93 in Clemson coming soon. Founders is a sure fan favorite. Visit relaxjoinfounders.com to see if you qualify for membership. Founders is a federally insured credit union. Okay, USC and Vanderbilt scoreless as they move to the second inning. Clemson all over Pittsburgh. It is 12-5. They're playing in the seventh inning there. At actually 12-6, I stand corrected. Pitt getting a run there in the seventh. They've now moved to the eighth inning at Doug Kingsmore Stadium, and Clemson is still leading 12-6 over Pitt. Tomorrow night, the Final Four begins in Houston. You have North Carolina taking on Syracuse, a battle of ACC teams. And ACC's team will be in the championship game. And just like I say during football season, when ACC fans jump all over SEC fans for bragging about their conference, ACC fans are now bragging about their conference in basketball, and they should. It's been a dominant run for the Atlantic Coast Conference, and they should stick their chest out. They are the best basketball conference in America. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And they're showing why. And they did show why in the NCAA tournament. Very impressive run. They're going to have a team in the championship game again. Second year in a row. Duke won it last year. And North Carolina, Duke, they have Syracuse, Notre Dame. They set the bar very high in the ACC, and for good reason. They are the gold standard. So North Carolina and Syracuse will play in that game. Most people expect North Carolina to win because most people didn't even have Syracuse in the tournament, much less making it to the Final Four. I got to think you can count probably on two hands how many people have Syracuse in the Final Four. Maybe a bunch of Orange fans did it just because that's what fans do. But outside of someone who wasn't a Syracuse fan, I bet you can count on one hand how many people put them in there. And it's probably Jan from your office pool that just likes the color orange, so she picked them to go all the way to the Final Four. That's the only thing I can think of. Or you had your 5-year-old pick a bracket, and they didn't know any better, and they like orange slices, so they put Syracuse in there. I don't know why you would have picked Syracuse to be in the Final Four, but they're there, and that shows you what can happen in March when you get in. You have a good coach that has tournament experience, that knows how to coach in the tournament, and Syracuse is in the Final Four, but I suspect their run will end tomorrow night against North Carolina. So I'm going to take the Tar Heels in that one. Then you have Oklahoma and Villanova. This one should be a great matchup. Buddy Hield has been so impressive. We talked about him earlier when we had Lee Klein on the show from Houston at the Final Four, and he was talking up Villanova and how good they are and all the things that they've done well to get where they are. Jay Wright, a heck of a coach in his own right. But in my bracket, I had North Carolina and Oklahoma meeting in the championship. Now, I actually had Kansas in the Final Four, not Villanova, so I was wrong there. And I had, of course, I didn't have Syracuse in. I had Michigan State, so like a lot of other people, I was wrong there. But I'm sticking with that. I'm sticking with the Sooners and the Tar Heels in the championship game. You with me there, Larkin? Is that who you like? Oh, he has Villanova in the championship game. So he's going with Nova. Can't really fault that. You can't really fault that. No. Yeah, I have North Carolina win the whole thing as well. Corn, I think, picked North Carolina to win the whole thing. They look like the best team, but, I mean, that can turn off so quick. You can go cold. Anything can happen. Would you be shocked? Well, I think I would be pretty shocked if Syracuse beat North Carolina, but maybe not. I mean, that's what happens, and that's why they call it March Madness. It would be stunning. I mean, if Syracuse wins the whole thing, how crazy would that be? That would be that would be right up there. I mean, you might say it's bigger than when NC State did it with Valvano. I think they were a 10 seed that year. Syracuse was the last team in, pretty much. And if they were to go on and win the whole thing, that would be an epic run. Now, VCU made it to the championship game. I think they were in the play-in game a few years ago. That's when Shaka Smart was still there. But, boy, that would be remarkable. It's not going to happen, right? No, it's not going to happen. We can put that to bed. Now that I said it's not going to happen, it's going to happen. The K-Mac kiss of death could be in effect. But North Carolina with Bryce Johnson, again, the Edisto product, and he has gone down as one of the all-time greats in North Carolina. He's had a double-double. He has more double-doubles than any player in a season in Tar Heel history, and we know what kind of history North Carolina has. He's averaged 20 and 10 in the NCAA tournament. That's remarkable. Just a heck of a player, and you look at Clemson, you look at South Carolina, and this isn't they recruited him, but those are the kind of guys that if South Carolina and Clemson are going to make that step, they got to find out a way to keep the Bryce Johnsons of the world, the Seventh Woods of the world, close to home. The Gamecocks had something cooking. Maybe they still will come up with something. Runners on second and third with one out, but Colon struck out on 3 pitches. So DC Arendas up now with the Gamecocks and Vanderbilt scoreless. And those are the situations where you have to, and now Arendas is struck out swinging, so it's going to be scoreless going into the bottom of the second inning. You got runners on base, a runner at third with less than 2 outs on the road playing a top 10 team. You got to scratch something through. You can't strike out twice. 3 pitches. And Vandy has pitching. You know that Vanderbilt is going to have a stable of pitchers. That's one thing that you just know. That's what they do up there with Tim Corbin. They're just loaded up with pitchers. They're all big. They're all like 6'3" and 225 pounds and can gas it. It's got a heck of a program up there. But this is the big upper echelon SEC baseball. And if you're going to be a team that makes a run into May, into June, those are the situations you have to capitalize on more times than not. Now it's baseball. You're not going to always get a runner in when you had that opportunity, but that was a missed opportunity for the Gamecocks. So now they'll move to the third, or actually the bottom of the second. No score there. Clemson now up 13-6 on Pitt. I'm going to go ahead and put that in the win column. We're going to call that for Clemson in the 8th inning here. Sports Talk projects Clemson to win the opening game against Pittsburgh at Doug Kingsmore Stadium. That's how we roll. 13-6 in the 8th. We're calling that for Clemson. We got a busy weekend. We can't be on the air on the weekend. We can only be on the air 2 hours a day, Monday through Friday. But fortunately, we do have the website for you, sportstalksc.com, and it will be loaded up with good stuff. Tonight, we'll have baseball stories from Doug Kingsmore with video of Monty Lee and the Tiger players. We'll have a USC story posted as well for you at sportstalksc.com. Any recruiting that Corn tracks down throughout the weekend will be posted. Any kind of news. You never know what's going to break during the weekend. For example, last Saturday, something broke on Saturday. Perry Orr's collarbone. And maybe you weren't around your laptop. Maybe you weren't around your radio or your television. It was there. We tweeted it, put it up on the website. We try to keep up with everything so you don't have to. All you have to do is really just check out that website, and you'll be in the know. You'll be in the loop. All right, Monday we'll crack open a brand new week of sports talk. We'll have our national championship set in college hoops. We'll have our final week of spring practice for USC and Clemson leading up to the spring games on Saturday. So we're going to have a busy, busy week, and it's going to be Masters week. That's right. The Masters tees off in Augusta, a tradition like no other. The Masters. My thanks to Larkin Belton, doing a great job. I'm not going to give you the long Larkin Belton honey path that Corn does, Larkin. I'm just going to call you by your name. Shocking revelation there. Have yourself a great weekend. We'll talk to you same time, same place here on Sports Talk on Monday night.